Yeah.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for the Wiise webinar. Thought I'd just quickly, sorry, we're running a bit behind schedule, but thought we will just kick off. In the room with me, I'll just share my screen. We have Steve Woolley, our Business Development Manager here, Christopher McKenzie, so he's our Success Manager, responsible for dealing with our customers and partners, and myself, Maya, who is a Product Marketer here at Wiise. What we'll cover today, and I think it's pretty much we'll kick off around challenges, is probably the biggest thing that we want to speak to you guys about. So what are the key challenges that growing businesses are facing, and more specifically around their accounting and operations? So that's something that Chris and Steve will go through when we kick off shortly. Then we'll sort of go into, the impact of these challenges. What does inefficient software look like? How does it actually impact your business? And what does that mean for your business? We'll move into the Wiise element around why we're doing what we're doing. So why are we bridging the gap between accounting and ERP? The whole reason behind why we're doing what we are doing today. And then we'll cover why, if Wiise is right for you. So what industries are we best, suited for? Which industries do we help? How we help? So we'll cover a bit about that as well. And then Chris will dive into a bit of a demo and we'll have the Q&A at the end of the presentation. So feel free as well to shoot across any questions during the webinar. We can cover that during the Q&A. But before we kick off, I thought that might be good for us to run a bit of a poll because we wanted to understand what type of industry your business is currently in. I think it'd be good to see, there's a diverse group of people on the line. So I'm just going to kick off the poll right now. And if your industry is not on the list, just, either select one that you think is more relevant, or I think we've got an other there as well. So I'll give you some time to fill that out. Okay, and give a few more people. Excellent. So let's have a quick look. So we have a lot of you are from actually services industry based, which is good to see. We also have some not-for-profit and other. So we've got at least a good mix there. So before we kick off into challenges, Chris, do you want to start talking about some of the challenges that you're seeing in growing businesses?
Yes, definitely. And thank you very much, everybody, for attending today. One key challenge that we always do find out in the market of people that are trying to, for one, be able to account for their business is that when they start off, they have that single solution, that accounting software that is managing their finances, helping them get to the point where they can report on the profitability and the stability of their business. But what you do find is that the moment you start using this system and you start growing, it's not going to be able to handle all aspects of your operations. A key example could be inventory, being able to account for the inventory that you handle on a day-to-day basis, being able to do the financial reporting that you need to be able to incorporate. Even sometimes receivables, payables, having that all within the one system really is the only way that you can work at a certain speed. And if it's disjointed, there's that delay, there's the discommunication between the different parts of your business. And I love that graphic there because that's a great example of how it would happen. For one, having to manage information within a third-party solution because you might have an industry-specific process that you need to handle, or even if you're doing project management and job costing, having that connect with your sales and your purchasing. This leads to naturally the manual processes to actually connect those disjointed systems. Those times we have to stay in the office to basically connect all of your data back into your accounting. And then, even if it's not in another system, having an Excel spreadsheet and not connected to your accounting software is a strain on the way that your business operates on a day-to-day basis. And actually, this is just a situation that it might be affecting some of you, but this can snowball in the way that it actually hurts businesses. The key aspect of that is if you're growing, how that affects. Steve, what's a good example of, I guess, a snowball effect when you've got these key challenges on a growing business.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Good afternoon, everyone. With these siloed processes within an organisation, it certainly just adds another layer of complexity to the business, another layer of reporting, if you like, where because they are siloed systems, people spend a lot of time duplicating that information. The resultant problems for that can be errors, etc., or just combining information from different systems to get the answers for reports that are needed by the business to just run. I've seen quite a lot of examples of this over the years. I've actually seen manufacturing businesses that run the whole manufacturing process on an Excel spreadsheet. Now, why they did that? Well, because their core systems couldn't handle the manufacturing process was a good reason, but actually by doing that, they added a whole layer of new complexity there where really only one person knew what the production cycle was. There was no integrated no integrated inventory, so to ensure that manufacturing is kept on time, were able to produce on time, and it just meant that they were spending so much time rekeying data, trying to manage it, that they were just inefficient because of that. Another example that I've seen quite often is where, for instance, the sales process is a little bit disparate from the main system. And it could very well be that there's no remote access for their sales reps, and the sales reps themselves have managed their own contacts and appointments on their own laptop, and then have to update those at the end of the day or next time they're back in the office. Now, obviously, that's a duplication of time and inefficiency, but there's also a real danger there because, if the rep leaves, well, the laptop disappears as well, or the data disappears, and that's even worse. So adding those extra layers, it really does add an overhead to the business that needs to be addressed.
And so what happens, guys, usually when it comes to, inefficiencies are increasing? What are we seeing from a growing business perspective?
So definite way that people try to address this because they are faced with the daunting prospect of changing the way they account for their business is filling up the solution with staff. Now, that whole idea of including more bodies within the business to do the manual accounting that you might be stuck with the current systems that you're using, it can band-aid the solution, but it's not solving the overall problem. They're basically themselves operating inefficiently, disparately, just as Steve said. There could be people brought into the business just to purely do order processing when you have your salespeople out on the road. You could be purely just trying to move the information from where you're managing your projects into your accounting. All those aspects do solve the problem, but then the cost is the key component here. That has an inherent cost. And it's basically a cost to keep yourself to account for where you are, not to get yourself ahead.
So usually businesses would, employ full-time admin people that would just focus on process-heavy things around Excel spreadsheets and entering things in, manually reporting and so forth. And it's just another added cost to your operations.
And it's a cost that you really don't need to have. It's a cost to stay where you are. The whole aspect of this as well is because they're manually connecting your information, you're not actually able to action this information. You're not able to even react to it. Key thing with that is the aspect of live data. Steve, you've seen this quite regularly, businesses that are dealing with this disjointed information, but working with the wrong information.
Yeah, certainly. The adding of staff to fill in that void that we mentioned before is a quick fix, but it's an expensive one.
Yes.
But the outcome is that you're still not getting that accurate information that you need to make timely decisions. To make a good decision, you require good information, and you don't get that if the information is a week old or 2 weeks old. If you're making a decision on the basis of old information or inaccurate information, you're really just winging it. So not only it's a huge task just to combine that data as well. It takes just such a lot of time and effort to actually try and get it in, try and get it balanced, and certainly that's not efficient use of people's time. It also means that the staff aren't doing what they should be doing.
Yes.
People are employed to do the job and do the job at the best ability. Rekeying data is not employing and making useful time with useful people. So, and there's always a question of data integrity, of course, and you're never quite 100% sure is the data I'm looking at correct? Remember the Excel spreadsheet I mentioned on the manufacturing one? They were never 100% sure, and you can bet that it wasn't timely. So that information was always disjointed, and that organisation certainly was suffering because of that. So the question you obviously need to ask is, how do you get that data synchronised? But certainly there are other things to be considered here as well. So
yeah, and I guess the next challenge that we put in here, because all this, it is a snowball effect when you think about it, how it's the siloed systems, the manual processes and so forth. But another key example we have here is around compliance, Chris.
Yeah, it's a good
regulation.
Because Steve was talking about being able to get ahead and make better decisions based on your data, but what happens when you're supposed to meet certain requirements, whether it is having an actual audit on your business or even having to report on specific aspects of your operations. People will then, once that compelling event comes around the corner, have to stop their business, check their data, compile it, let alone being sure if the data is actually of value. If there's a human element moving and combining this data, there's a chance for error. And people do evaluate that. So it's an investment in time just to actually check the data now. The whole idea here is that you can move away from that and have it in one system where you're sure the data is compliant and is fully up to date.
So as a business grows, you can't overstate the importance of the compliance with regulations. I mean, no matter what your industry, there's compliance issues that need to be met. They could vary by industry, of course, but depending on your business, you've got financial reporting requirements, that's obvious, but business and environment reporting issues, export and import, if you deal in those industries as well, there are compliance issues there. And of course, there's the obvious ones like the ATO, dealing with the tax office compliance. I mean, who doesn't enjoy a rigorous tax audit for any business? I don't think so. And that's not what you want. But certainly having the right system there will certainly, if that event ever happened, would enable you to manage that process a whole lot better.
So I guess just to wrap up, pretty much, I guess all these challenges, there's an impact to it. So if you're a growing business and you're not looking at how many admin staff do you have here, or what does my compliance look like, bit of a recap, staff costs increase because you're trying to fill that void of, I need people to do my purchase orders and I'm going to employ 4 admin staff to do that. Working with inaccurate information is something that is so critical. We've seen a lot of businesses out there, and I'm sure we see it in the news all the time, where a piece of information that they thought, oh, okay, the pay for this particular employee is X amount, and then 2 years later you find out we've been underpaying staff. All that information has a detrimental effect to the businesses, and especially if you're growing. Another element as well, we mentioned about the manual inefficient labour. So I'd say 5-10 years, manual processes was, printing and doing all these things, but now in the space that we're moving, it's sort of like, how do businesses actually cut that down? Because we can. Data risk is probably something that we, should touch on, and Steve, you mentioned it around what happens if a salesperson leaves the business, or what happens if your data, you have a customer list sitting here and another piece of data there, and you lose it, what happens to that data? Accountability, I think, is something that's important. So the fact that with everything being so manual, you can have people who put in the wrong information. And then how do you check to make sure that, who did that who tweaked that figure there, or when was it done? Having that accountability is important in an organisation. So there's a big impact on that too. And all of this builds up to frustration. And I know there's so many times where, you're doing something manually, and whether it's washing the dishes or whatever it is, right? It all leads to frustration, and it's an impact to a business. And with that, if you have employees that are frustrated, the impact of them using inefficient software or outdated systems or processes, their work satisfaction's, it's important and it's going to be impacted. And you want to retain your key talent, right? So you want to keep them happy and keep them doing stuff that they feel like they actually like doing. And then the final impact that we have there is around security. So is your data safe? Is it secure? Where is it sitting? Who has access to it? That is a massive thing for businesses. And as we move into the tech age, I mean, we are already there. That's even more important than it is. So got a slide here that talks about pretty much why we're doing what we're doing. You know, why we're bridging the gap between accounting and ERP. And what we've seen is businesses, especially those who are growing, small and medium-sized businesses, they're all facing the same complexity and the same issues that large corporations are facing. You know, they've got sales, they have processes, they've got all accounting, all of these things that they need to think about as a growing business. And essentially what we've noticed is that we're actually, those businesses are at a disadvantage. So what would happen usually is large corporations can afford, advanced technology to help them cut down their processes, manage their business in one area, get the insights that they need. But when you're a small and medium-sized business and you actually want to keep track of your cash and where you're spending, you can't fork out hundreds of thousands of dollars to get that type of technology. And so the cost of finding a better solution and implementing it is significant for those types of businesses, which is why we're here. We noticed this gap in market and we wanted to help level the playing field for all businesses, small to medium. And Steve, I think this is a really good slide to show that.
Yeah, it certainly is. Actually, I really like this slide. It's actually really in two parts here, and I think it really sums up a whole lot of businesses and the way they work. But if I can ask you, draw your attention to the top left-hand side there where it says the micro business. Look, when businesses start off, they're small, etc. And look, as they have their journey from left to right, the business complexity grows, and that's really when businesses outgrow their incumbent systems. And for all the problems that we faced earlier on, or the challenges we faced, or we mentioned earlier on, this is where a business starts to come up against these challenges. We've also got there that, look, when a business starts, they might just put their business system, a small business system, they might just put it on premise. And one of the key points in one of Mayo's earlier slides was about the data risk and data security. And on premise, the most valuable bit of information, the most value to the business is actually in the data. And it's not an asset that's recorded anyway. So the value of the data to a business is absolutely, you can't measure that. So with an on-premise solution, and we could spend a whole another half hour on this discussion itself, but having that data on-prem, vulnerable to fire, water damage, or whatever, being stolen, is just another issue. But for the other type of business, of course, have already gone into the cloud. But as they grow that complexity, they'll outgrow those systems, etc. Right through to when they become the larger, or reach up to the larger established small and medium businesses. And so what we're trying to do is we cover, and if I ask you to look down the bottom half of the screen, you'll actually see when they're a micro business, there'll be particular software that those businesses will actually use. And I'll start off with, and I'll mention some names there, Miable, Xero, because that's the first two that I saw. But as they progress through their growth cycle, the business complexity grows, as I said earlier, and therefore they will outgrow those solutions. And what we're saying with Wiise is that as an ideal customer is actually one that's outgrown those businesses. Although we can address the requirements of that lower market, that's really where we fit in. And as you can see, we cover all the way through, right through to the large SMBs businesses and even enterprise level. And we've mentioned specifically some higher end products there that we actually can compete with. So the message for any business, even if you're a small business and you actually get onto Wiise, is that if ever you grow to that point and you need a sophisticated system, Wiise already has that functionality built in and available to you if ever you need it. So I really like the way the slide just positions Wiise and where it fits in the market and the challenges as a business grows.
Yeah, and I think the next slide is probably what, doing all of this, we needed to think about how do we bring the most value back to small and medium-sized businesses, because when you move to ERP, they don't think about stuff like banking or whatever else. So exactly. I think this will be a good slide to talk about around the partnership.
And that's a very unique aspect of Wiise, because the whole actual inception of our solution was from three of the hugest enterprise solutions you'd find in the Australian markets, but it was purely to then take people that are used to these accounting cloud solutions to handle the baseline and transition them to be able to receive enterprise level capabilities without missing those key points. It was a great point you made there. The banking integrations that they experience with a cloud accounting solution can't be lost when they go into their operations.
Yeah.
Other things like payroll, the key things, the areas aren't being tackled within the ERPs or enterprise solutions that we need to have within a whole business solution. So this was created by KPMG, built on the Microsoft platform, and it is supported by Commonwealth Bank to provide that banking integration suited for Australian businesses.
And so last year, I mean, we launched Wiise, and essentially we really wanted to help SMBs, small to medium-sized businesses, get access to this type of technology. And when somebody says, oh, what is Wiise? Well, we look at it and say, well, it's a full business management solution. It has accounting, it has operations from inventory to warehousing to projects to resourcing. And we've also done additional things. So with the partnership with CBA and Microsoft and obviously utilising our expertise from KPMG Australia, we've done our own customisation to the product around, you know, chart of accounts, bank feeds, things that, you know, we need to actually consider when you're moving up to this type of software. And I think one of the great things as well is we have, and Steve mentioned this, we are for small businesses, right? So if you're on a 0 mile when you're outgrowing it, we do have packages that start from $49 per user per month, and it scales up. You know, we have another package that's suited more for wholesalers and those who have projects. But yeah, we start quite small. And so probably the next thing is, you know, is Wiise right for you guys?
Yeah, certainly we took a little snapshot of what our Wiise client base is comprised of, and certainly by the looks of the attendees here, we certainly nailed it as far as our attendees that virtually line up with what we have here about our industry cross sections. But look, just to give you an idea of how Wiise helps, I won't take too much time on this, but I'll just give some quick examples of how we've helped some of our clients, in particular for the distribution and wholesale industry. One client in particular was having real stock optimization and stock reordering levels. And by that, I mean they were overstocking in the wrong area, and they were placing many orders on a particular supplier per month. Well, Wiise has built-in intelligence in there that not only comes up and says, well, this is what we think you should be ordering based on your usage, your demand at the moment, but it also comes up and says, oh, by the way, these are the additional orders that you should be getting from this particular supplier. So, and by that you're placing one purchase order rather than half a dozen purchase orders and managing all those processes. So that was one way one particular client managed to not only get their inventory levels more in line with what they were expecting, but also reducing the overheads of having staff rather than just producing purchase order after purchase order to actually produce just one instead of half a dozen. So if you're a not-for-profit industry, that was hard for me to say there. If you're a not-for-profit industry, you know, we typically find that the grants management and the funding reporting that's required is always an issue for them. You know, accounting for any monies that are received from organisations or the government to actually account for that and give a detailed report back. Always a challenge and always an issue, and we're being able to overcome that with virtually standard-wise functionality. So that's something that they've been able to particularly benefit by, and also reduce the admin overhead, because as you know, in not-for-profits, the administration is effectively money they can't use. The service-based industries, typically staff resourcing and projects management has been a real challenge for them. Yes. And such as in the manufacturing industry, well, I mentioned that one particular client earlier on where they were running it off an Excel spreadsheet. So that integration for that particular client was such a bonus that they were able to become much more efficient. But there's sort of overall areas that for those particular Wiise type clients that we have. So.
Wonderful. And I think we put just some little examples at the bottom there that you guys can read. We do have a handout that you can access just around how, you know, Wiise has helped an on-premise and also another business scale maximise their sales. So I know we're pretty tight for time, but we still want to kick on. So happy for you guys to continue joining us because we've got two more key things we want to cover. One is this element around why Wiise. So, you know, our biggest thing is that we're the next step for businesses that are either growing in complexity or need clarity over their entire operations. We have built on a Microsoft platform, and then the key reason for that is we know businesses are using Microsoft Office 365 tools every single day, your Excel, your Outlook, and so we wanted to leverage the Microsoft Office 365 integration by utilising a Microsoft platform. And plus, it's built on Azure, which is one of the, I think globally, the most secure server that we have. So we wanted to maintain that security. We also built extra functionality and capabilities on top of the Microsoft platform to make sure that it's relevant for the Australian market. So those are the things around, we've done an integrated single touch payroll because of obviously the regulations that have came out. We've done things around customised chart of accounts, landed cost for importers, timesheet, mapping back to payroll. So there's all these additional elements that we've customised because we knew Australian businesses have different needs in comparison to maybe a business in the US. And we've got future development work. So we've done so much in the last year, but that doesn't stop us now. So we've got 14 working on future product enhancements, which we can definitely take you guys through. And then we're combining all of our expertise across tech, tax and auditing, accounting and banking to bring those unique benefits back into a business, as well as all the ERP functionality that a business needs to run the entire operations. So, Chris,
yes,
it would be awesome if we could actually have a look at what Wiise looks like, and maybe you can show some of the benefits.
Okay, great. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to present my screen, and what you're straight away going to see is the landing dashboard of Wiise. This is what we would call a role center. And the whole idea to deal with the complexities of your business is that Wiise is aiming to be a role-tailored business solution to handle all the different intricacies of your business. Right here, you can see straight away some live data coming through across the different areas of the business. And the whole idea is that it's actionable intelligence.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, for sure. And from this, I can straight away see what my priorities are for the day. The fact that I should be actioning the overdue sales invoices, that I can see all those salespeople out on the road, like the Steve Woolley here, putting in their orders, pushing them through, and I can see them within what we call document piles. So while you're able to straight away action the information that you dive into Wiise with, as you scroll down through the role center, there's more intelligence basically illustrated for you so you can action different aspects of your business. Bank feeds so that you are continuing to remain on top of the finances. Business assistance standardized reports that we provide out of the box. Here we can see sales trends by our customers. We can see that live data and be able to, for one, interact with it. I can then jump to another graph where I can see my top customers. I can drill down into the information itself, see the fact that this customer, Selgorian, has conducted quite a bit of sales. And if I jump into their information right there, you can see all the details of this customer. I open up their statistics and I can see their aged accounts receivable, their money owed, and their current standing for the sales this year. Now, while Wiise tries to provide you clear and, for one, actionable intelligence on these dashboards, we understand that Wiise has to operate with your day-to-day processes. A good example of this would be using the Microsoft platform to utilize a tool that we use on a daily basis. Everyone uses email. Now, it's important to note that this connection I'm about to show you is available both within Office 365 Mail as well as your Outlook client on your computer. All I have to do is select, jump into Wiise, and what this will do, this will actually read the contact that I have on this email, register that this is an existing customer, and open up that customer's information. Right there, I can see the same statistics that I saw earlier before. I can action any of this information, and for one, I can even react to the email itself. I select, I can generate a sales quote, and what this will do, this will even read the email that you see here. It'll try and reconcile what I'm seeing. So if there's a conflict, it lets me actually action that. And right here, what I've been able to do is surface the information on this customer, produce a quote, and populate it with the details that we saw there. And I can then further action this. I could add resources or services that we provide. If this isn't enough information or it isn't clear enough for you to see, I can just one click and open it up on the window so that I'll be able to to view all the information and work on what I'm seeing here. One click, turn this into an order, an invoice, or even send this quote back to my customer. And this quote itself will even be a reply to the original email. The whole idea here is that I'm not jumping through different systems to action one simple function. I actually just clicked 3 buttons there. And I was able to touch our sales, our inventory, our services, our accounting, accounts receivable, and process that all within the one step. Now, Wiise itself can bring these insights in many different forms that are naturally important to a business, whether it's cash flow forecasting and having that live data within the system. Right here, we can see an example where I'm trying to provide additional intelligence using Microsoft's machine learning to be able to even provide corrections and predictions based on my cash flow. I scroll down further, I can see financial performance live data updated on a second-by-second basis. A key one that we always find is important for our financial services customers is being able to report on projects, combine those projects with actuals, the budgets, and give that live data. Here I can see the expenses located against the project. I can interact with these actuals and drill down onto the base level of information. I can compare these projects to budgets. And right there you can see how close we are to budget on our expenses, or even have this overall across a number of projects. There's a whole point of using this actual intelligence so that I can drill down into the information, see both the actuals or the budgets, or even drill down into the ledger entries themselves and see that data all across our different projects. There's much more we can dive down into, whether it was the inventory control, the project cost accounting, or even actually one of our other modules such as job costing, timesheeting, resource management. But we don't have time for that today. What we'll do is now open it up for questions so that we can directly answer some of your inquiries about Wiise itself and everything you've seen so far.
Thank you so much, Chris. I know that we are at that time, but let's maybe just bring up, I'll just show my screen too. Yeah, so obviously before we kick off any questions, just want to let you guys know, speak to us essentially. Email us at hello@wiise. We did say we're happy to do a complimentary business consultation to have a look at, your business, because every business has different needs, different challenges, and really we want to dive down on that a bit more with you guys to see how we can help essentially. So please feel free to reach out. We might send you guys a link to the recording as well. But yeah, so I'll have a look here. I've got a question from Catherine. Okay, so I'm using Xero at the moment and I manage projects and CRM. What does Wiise, can Wiise do both? What does Wiise do? What does Wiise do?
Yeah, it's a great question. Wiise can not only handle the budgets or the intricacies of the projects you might be running, but it then combines it with your sales, your receivables, your purchase and payables. That is available within our business edition. I'm naturally more than happy to talk to you a bit more detail about that. If you just email hello@wiise, we can go through your specific case itself.
Yeah, and we have CRM as well.
Exactly.
Cool. And Tyson has said, if I have team members that managed funded projects, can they be given access to only reports, etc., related to their project?
Another great question. We do have different licenses, one that can give you full access to all the different aspects of the business and one that gives you pure reporting access. And naturally, some of these reports can be sent out of Wiise. So we'll go a bit more in detail about that through our conversations, but short answer is yes, in different ways.
Another one here from Steve. Not this Steve, but another Steve. With the $49 package, what are the key components included as part of that?
Great question. The whole idea with our offerings is that they are scalable in the way they work. The $49 offering basically provides you full accounting and financial management within the system, as well as the internal CRM that Maya mentioned. The idea is that you move up in the additions when your business complexity becomes higher. So if you need project accounting or if you need distribution, you move up to our middle offering. If you need manufacturing and post-sales management, with service contracting and after sales servicing, you'd move up to our top offering. So if you just needed multi-company, basic inventory, and full accounting, our $49 offering would be perfect for you.
Cool. Another one here, Raj. Raj has asked, do you guys do extensions or any APIs?
Certainly the system comes with open APIs, and the ability to do extensions within the system is through a partner who will actually do that for you.
Yep.
So you can actually extend the system to meet any unique requirements your business has.
Cool. And there's one more here, guys. Let us know. We'll probably end on this one.
Yeah.
But essentially, it's around not-for-profit. So I'm a not-for-profit, and I have multi-locations that I need to manage. I have different projects, funds, and various levels. I've got various levels of management that's required. How do I do this in Wiise?
Certainly there's a specific module that we have for the not-for-profit industry that may be of interest here. It will certainly help you address those requirements that you mentioned. You can do different reporting, reporting by department or different locations as well. And certainly, as I mentioned earlier, reporting by funds or projects or programs may be particularly relevant for you there. So we'd certainly like to have a chat with you about those requirements.
Cool. Other than that, guys, I think we can probably wrap up now. Thank you all for attending. Really appreciate it. We will reach out and give you a recording and obviously a copy of the presentation. But yeah, thanks for taking the time, and hopefully you all have an awesome day.
Great. Thank you, guys.